We're no longer on a vacation. It's a quest. It's a quest for fun. And I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. The weekly whiskey is in the TSPL, and that means we're on for another fantastic conversation that is Implicit Bias Radio. Look, we've long noted on Implicit Bias Radio the power of Gen X. Maybe it's the ladies' leg warmers and your neon headbands. Maybe it's the guys' members-only jackets. Whatever it is, the Gen X journey is something we all should embark upon. The question is why? Well, because our journey has always been less about whining and more about winning. You see, Gen X was forced to reconcile that life is a never-ending montage of stuff. It's not, though, a montage of bad luck set to a sad saxophone solo. No, it's more like the Goonies. You've got to chase the treasure, dodge the booby traps, and maybe even outsmart a few fratellis along the way. But here's the thing. Some people, and you know who they are, they treat life like Weekend at Bernie's, dragging their deadweight victim mentality with them like it's a lifeless CEO in sunglasses. Newsflash, Bernie's not coming back to life, and neither is your excuse for why everything bad always seems to happen to you, and it makes you the perpetual victim. See, victim is actually from the Latin victima. In the 15th century, it was defined as, quote, a creature killed in religious sacrifice. Today, however, we are completely messing up the use of the word and using it, in our opinion, and our implicit bias, the wrong way. Today, we have expanded the definition of the word victim so broadly that basically anyone can claim they're a victim of everyone and everything else. Think about it. Too many in our society love to use the word victim as a weapon. I'm a victim of this. I'm a victim of that. So you should give me something special. Maybe even special treatment. Nope. Guess what? You're not a victim. You're not a victim when you cause your own harm. You're not a victim when you create your own detrimental situation. Is a chef, for example, a victim of the oven when he grabs the pan without gloves? Nope. Chef knows better, but the chef makes a choice. Is a mechanic a victim of the wrench when the bolt finally breaks free and the hand holding that wrench hits something? No. The mechanic knows the risks of what he's doing. It seems, however, that some of us want to be the all-time victim, like we kind of had an all-time quarterback playing football in the streets in 1982. No matter what happens, the all-time victim always gets to play the victim card. It's the system, it's society, it's sexism, it's xenophobia, it's whatever the word is of the day today. Well, guess what? That's not how this was ever supposed to work. And certainly, it's not going to work for you moving forward. The Bible's actually got some tough love for people like that. Proverbs 19:3 says, a person's own folly leads to their ruin, yet their heart rages against the Lord. Translation, you trip on your own shoelaces and then blame God for the sidewalk? Really? Now, I get it. Sometimes life throws you a Caddyshack-sized gopher problem. But here's the difference between the hero and the victim. The hero grabs the shovel. The victim just stands there yelling, "It's in the hole," while their life collapses around them. Playing the victim, it isn't just annoying. The reality is it's toxic. It is spiritually toxic. It's the equivalent of being the kid who blames the dog for eating his homework, even though the dog lives 3 states away. Take a page from Ferris Bueller's playbook, why don't you? Life moves pretty fast. And if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. Ferris didn't mope around about his principal chasing him. No, he turned it into fun. And that's what Proverbs 24:10 is all about. If you falter in a time of trouble, how small is your strength? We're not helpless extras in Revenge of the Nerds. We're the lead in our own story. And it's about time that each and every single one of us acts like it. So let's cut the woe is me soundtrack Let's not think that life is a John Hughes movie where you're forever stuck in detention. It's Back to the Future. You've got a DeLorean. And the only thing stopping you from hitting 88 miles per hour, well, it's your own refusal to step on the damn gas. Stop blaming Biff for stealing your almanac. Take responsibility, aim for the clock tower, and make something happen. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't owe you a happy ending. That's a movie reference for those asking. But if you're brave enough to just simply stop playing the victim, you might just write the ending for yourself. This ending is just the beginning. Weekly Whiskey is from our partners. Problems of the world you may not have heard about in the lamestream media. Your Implicit Bias Radio comes right after this. Cheers. 60% of the time, it works 100% of the time. This is Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. We've got a great crew for you here in the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair. That is the TSPL for the initiated. We're going to start to introduce you to who's here this week before we start talking about our weekly whiskeys that we are going to have throughout the course of the show. And before we start getting into the problems of the world that need solving. So let's start at the bar. It is great to have him back. We lose him during the holidays. The Christmas death and resurrection is back for Grant Galatas of William S. Nacall. Grant, how did you make it here with Valentine's Day being so close to New Year's this year?
Just like every other occasion, it relies on the guys, to come get a gift. So the procrastination level is at a DEFCON 1. On every occasion. But no, it's a little bit of a break between the Christmas rush and Valentine's rush. So
guys and ladies, if you're looking for something for that special person in your life for Valentine's Day, go to William S. Nacall Jewelers now. That's what basically Grant was saying. Come early. Catch us while we've got all the inventory and all that good stuff. Ladies, your guy might want a deep blue type decanter. Maybe they don't have that beautiful Waterford crystal anymore because those things aren't readily available. They're just not. But I guarantee they have something. It could be beautiful double old-fashioned glasses. You never know.
Yeah, and it's tied into Mardi Gras kind of in proximity again this year. So come see Eli and get some stuff at the jewelry store and grab your king cake.
King cake at Gambino's.
I mean, it's like a conveyor belt over there.
I have had to
throwing them out the door.
I seriously didn't call Eli for this week's show because he's been kind enough to give us king cakes every week. And I have to stop using the front end loader to shovel king cake down my gullet. It's that bad. It's that bad. I had to pause.
It's that time again.
Also at the bar, so another man whose time is right during Mardi Gras season. It's not the Bead King, Craig Spadoni of Bead Busters. He's the cocktail man. It is Jared Brasso. Jared, it's a pleasure to have you back here in the TSPL.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to be here.
And I love how I just gave you two first names there. I said Jared instead of Jared the first time. And
that's
it's
okay.
Jared.
Listen, you and I talked about this last week. You're not the first person to do that, and will definitely not be the last.
Nope, will not be the last. And of course, it's always great to welcome a brand new member into the top secret podcast lair. I introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, for those who have listened to the show, you've seen and know that we have a normal co-host. This week, it is not our normal co-host. I am going to introduce you to Ubi Duke Mork. Ubi Duke Morse on this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio.
You did meet my mother, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Ubi Duke Morse. You want to tell him the story, Caleb, or you want me to tell it? So hold on. Let me tell the story, first of all, of how I found this out. So literally, we go to a department store here in Lafayette, Louisiana, and the wife and I are looking at a couple of things, and I'm a cheapskate, so I'll tell you how this happens. I find something online, and I was like, oh, I really like that, but I'm not paying $500 for it. And then Christmas rolls around, and when Christmas starts to pass, it drops from $500 to like $270. And I was like, oh, I might go look at this for $270. For $270, I might be in play. But I put it off again. After New Year's, I'm like, let me just go check $150. And I'm like, all right, now I just got to figure out sizing.
Yep.
So I go to the store to look for sizing. They had one. It was in an extra large. And I was like, hold on, extra large, no, large. Because for me, it's always between a large and a medium. I'm kind of right in between. Well, the next thing you know, we're getting ready to leave. And I hear, excuse me, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, maybe it's a listener. Maybe it's somebody who remembers me from years ago. I'm always humbled. And she says, yeah, I know you from Implicit Bias Radio. I'm like, this is awesome. Thank you. And she says, I'm Caleb's mom. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So then we start down the stories and she's like, yeah, my Ubi Duke. And I'm like, wait, what? And she goes, my Ubi Duke. And I'm like, hold on. And she goes, well, first of all, I love this. I'm like, She goes, oh no, Caleb talked when he was a youngster, like talked a lot. And I'm like, oh, now I know where Remy gets it. And she goes, oh no, Remy's got nothing on Caleb. And I'm like, wait, what? She goes, oh, he was 100 miles an hour. And he always referred to himself up until a certain age as Ooby Duke Morse. And that was your nickname, I guess?
No, I don't know how it happened, honestly. I think I just woke up one day when I was like 3 and just didn't want to reply to Caleb anymore. And I told everybody my name was Ooby Duke Morse.
That is awesome.
I'm sorry, but that sounds too much like Scooby-Doo.
Maybe that's where it came from. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds a little too much.
It would have only been appropriate if he just said, I'm Ooby Dooby Doo.
This is why children shouldn't make permanent decisions. So
No, look, I was once told when my children were very young, oh, why don't you let the child make a decision? My daughter was 4. And I remember going, no. And the wife and I had a conversation. Then I was having a conversation with Miss Sandra of Sandra's Stuffed Breads on 12th Street. And Miss Sandra and I were sitting down talking, and we were kind of going through this. And she says, let me tell you what's wrong with the world today. Now, Miss Sandra was older. I don't even know if she's still alive anymore. And she says, let me tell you what's wrong with the world today. She said, that child doesn't know what that child wants to eat for dinner, much less wanting to make a lifetime decision like this. And we got stupid people who don't want to be parents to their children and guide their child to the right things. They want to let their child make the decision and think that that's all good. And that is the road to hell. And she wasn't wrong.
very valid point. Very valid point.
Okay, speaking of valid, we are going from unobtainium whiskey last week, a true unicorn, a implicit bias gold Blanton's barrel drop that belonged to Ambassador Wine and Spirits. And Caleb didn't get any.
None, not a drop, bro. Not a drop. But
okay,
look, it's okay.
I got to tell you, that bottle, normally with a bottle about midway through the second hour, we've still got about a third of it left.
Yeah.
With like the last segment in hour one, that bottle was empty.
Damn.
It went that quick. It was that good.
Damn, I missed out.
Now, here's the problem. We can miss out on that.
Yeah, it's
right.
Like there'll be another.
I mean,
some
gee,
point.
you were telling me that you listened on Monday, and instead of catching the early drop on social media, you missed it completely.
I did. Totally missed it.
I hate that. Right. So for our listeners,
But then again, great for Ambassador Wines and Spirits to be able to get that barrel, make it available for their customers.
well, and
it's
look,
awesome.
we are hyper appreciative for what they did, which is they let us do the announcement, and they let people who downloaded the podcast, because the podcast always hits on Friday, they let that be the announcement. So our podcast listeners, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
First dibs.
Not only first dibs, they found out early because the podcast hit at 1:01 a.m.
Friday
on
morning.
Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from 12:59. I mean, actually, it was 12:01 a.m. because it dropped at midnight. So at 12:01 a.m., our podcast listeners were able to figure out what the drop was, where they could get it, when they could get it. And man, it turned out to be really special. So what we wanted to do this week was do something different than a bottle of unobtainium. What I really wanted to do was sit around and have bottles that are our available best everyday drinkers of 2026. And we are technically still in rye January. Not dry January, rye January.
Oh, I'm telling my wife that's what I'm doing next year.
That's it. We are doing rye January. Why, Caleb? Because it's what?
It's all right, all right, all right.
Yes, it is on Implicit Bias Radio. So that being said, what we have in our glasses right now, we have the Sazerac 100 proof. This one and the 125. I want you to understand that our Implicit Bias Liquor Collective partners probably all have this. You really want to look for it? Go to a place like Benny's in Opelousas. They've got it. And what's really cool is that Benny's in Opelousas actually had on the shelf in the last couple of days some bottles of Stag at $65 and change.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now, they were gone when I got there to pick these up. If they weren't gone when I got there, they would have been gone when I left.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is you can go to Benny's in Opelousas. You can find these. You can buy these there. And when I tell you that to me, these are the absolute easy, everyday drinkers of 2026, man, I really, really like these. So in order to do that, I want to start with a person that normally doesn't talk and has only decided to start drinking once we brought out the good stuff. Because take a guess who did show up and make sure he got his bottle. Walker Griffon.
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
I saw you there.
Yes, you did. That's how I knew you were there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had that. Did you open your bottle?
Yes.
And?
Oh, it was amazing. I
Okay.
didn't drink it all. I drank a few glasses, but it was awesome.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk about this Sazerac 100 proof.
This one's solid. not it doesn't burn whatsoever. It's an easy drinker. Just sit around and chill out with this one. This one's smooth. This is something I can get behind.
Okay. So I'm not going there. That's a bad joke. All
I
right.
knew when I said it.
At least you felt it, you know.
From behind. All right. At the bar. Let's go ahead and see what our gentlemen at the bar think. Who wants to start off with the Sazerac 100?
I agree completely with Walker. I wouldn't have guessed this to be 100 proof, unless I'm just getting used to the proof. But wow, it's really, really smooth.
Is this not just one of those that
It's
you're like,
warm, it's glowing, it's sweet.
now,
it's
Grant,
just,
you are an old-fashioned guy. Can you imagine this in an old-fashioned?
usually they won't be into the hundreds for
Well, that's
with the proof. Usually the ones I make it with are usually in the upper 80s or 90s. But the taste on this, oh my God, I don't know how much more you'd need to add to this other than an orange peel and a cherry, and this would be absolutely fantastic.
I absolutely agree. The orange peel and the cherry would be easy adds and could be an easy cheater's old-fashioned.
Right. And what I learned a while back was, and we talked about it on the show, was if the rye is done correctly, you don't have that burn. And this one for 100 proof just doesn't have any burn at all on the throat. It is just very inviting.
I agree with you 100% on this one. It's one of the reasons why I was like, these two, we have to do these two, because I think these two are going to break the whiskey bourbon market, in my opinion. Because when we start going through what would you pay and the what would you pay championship belt chain presented by Box Drop, I think everybody here is going to be shocked if you don't already know. G, your thoughts on this Sazerac 100?
So the first thing that hit me is I'm a regular Sazerac 90 proof drinker. Like, it's something that I keep on the bar. I make a lot of old fashions with it. This 100 though is, it's not even the same bottle. It's so, I don't want to say it's different, because there's notes of it that are there, but the extra 10 proof makes a huge difference. It stands up better. There's so much more flavor profile going on. It's just, I mean, to me, it's a better, more well-rounded whiskey, or more well-rounded representation of what Sazerac Rye is. I can't wait for the 125.
I absolutely agree with you. And this is a shout out to Kelly Broussard, who has been with us on the show before. He's with the Acadiana Bourbon Society. He actually had a taste of this, because when this first came out, I was like, I got to grab a bottle. I'd heard great things. Grabbed a bottle. He and his wife happened to come by the house. And I was like, hey, I want you to taste this. And he's like, what is it? I'm like, just taste it. And he goes, oh my God, this is fantastic. What is it? And I showed it to him. He said, I'm not a rye drinker. This to me is one of those ryes that if you have somebody who says, I drink bourbon, I don't drink rye, pour this for them and watch them have to change their mind, because it drinks so bourbon-ish as a rye, but you still get those hints of baking spice. You still get a little of that pepper, but you do get those deep flavors that really resonate. So for those deep flavors, maybe that should be your nickname, Deep Flavor.
I'll need a purple shirt or something.
And a clock.
So, man, on the nose, I guess to preface it, in the past, when I saw Sazerac, until I had your Sazerac, I wasn't a fan of the Sazerac cocktail, right? So when I saw Sazerac sitting there, I was like, no, I don't really like that. And it wasn't because I had tried it and didn't like it. It was my mind associated the name with a poorly made cocktail. But once we started having it and I started enjoying it, I realized, man, they make some phenomenal stuff. On the nose here, it's really soft, almost like it's missing something on the nose. Like it's very, very understated. I don't get a lot of caramel. I don't get a lot of everything else. It's there, but I have to look for it.
Okay.
But I get a little orange zest and I finish a caramel, maybe a little brown sugar on the nose. On the palate, it's a big surprise. I get a warm caramel hug.
Okay.
Almost, maybe not a caramel, like a warm brown sugar hug. I remember when I was a little kid, my grandmother wanted to make, or she would always make homemade pralines. And I'm not known for being patient. So whenever she would dump
Shocker.
the mixture of butter and brown sugar and everything else that's like lava hot on the baking paper, I'm dumb and I would stick my finger in there. And then I would immediately stick my finger in my mouth because now it's burned, but it tasted delicious. And like, that's the kind of warm brown sugar caramel flavor I get. It's that fresh, trying to make a good praline and you just can't be patient enough. Then I get cracked black pepper and maybe I'm trying to figure out like a dried fruit, almost like a raisin.
I'm going to tell you what I get. and I'm with you on the fruit. I get the fruit forward on this. This is a shout out to another one of our partners. This partner is in New Orleans. So on this show, Nicole Dornack brought the chocolate covered cherries that they sell. And that's I get that dried cherry with chocolate on it. That's what I get. To me, that's the fruitiness that I get on it. I do get that hint of caramel, but to me, it's that bold cherry, almost explosion on the palate. But it's dried, so it's deeper. It's not oversweet, but it's sweet enough, and it's got that hint of chocolate.
It's really damn good because it's not artificial sweetness. It's like a good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I'm trying to remember what it tasted like. If I remember correctly, the cherries they had, they weren't like a heavily sugared cherry.
No,
it was more of a natural cherry.
correct.
It was deep red.
It's like a dehydrated cherry.
Yes, yeah.
And that's what I get on this. Now, here's the big one for me. The big one for me, and I want to pull this up just so I've got this before, and of course my phone's going to malfunction, before we go to pricing. But let me do this because I've got the picture. I want the exact price. I need you to look, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, notice the size of these bottles.
That threw me off, I'll be honest with you.
The 125 is a normal $7.50. The 100 is only sold in a 1 liter bottle.
I was trying to
So
figure
it's-
out the size difference. I was like, man, is the 125 smaller? No.
Yes.
Well, I say
The 125 is smaller.
Well, yeah, but like I didn't mean it's, I mean smaller, like smaller than 750.
No.
But it's the 100 proof is just a full size boy.
Correct. The 100 proof is a full liter.
You all right, Walker?
Walker's just disappointed he couldn't wear shorts again this week because it's in the 30s at night in Lafayette. Yeah, and trust me, he tried. Anyway, the fact that they only sell this in a 100,
Yep.
right, 100 milliliter, 1 liter bottle is fantastic because you get, as an everyday drinker, you get a little bit extra. So I'm curious where we would rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code, and what would you pay for this at Benny's in Opelousas? Let's remember the Morse Whiskey rating code for the uninitiated. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I would only drink it if it was free. Green, I would buy this. Blue, I would seek this out. And then what would you pay? What do you think the liquid in the bottle's worth? Remember, it's a 1 liter bottle.
What's crazy is it's probably a smoking price for a 1 liter too.
Well, we're about to find out. We're going to start with G. G of Sirop de Saison.
So, man, it's a green. I would definitely drink this every day. Like it's that good. But I don't feel like it's a blue. I think it's a green. I think it's a solid green.
Okay.
And then for a liter of this juice, $49.
$49 from G of Sirop de Saison. All right, Grant, what about you?
It's times like these I just yearn for a shade of greenish blue.
No. No.
I know the rules. God, there's no penalties for it. I'm gonna blue this. It's just so agreeable.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna blue it. It's just that rich, but more often I'll lean towards a blue with something like this when it's agreeable for my taste.
Okay.
I don't profess to be a whiskey or bourbon professional by any means. So when we do this scale, I like to think of how it treats me, how I like it, and how it goes down. So
And that's all that matters.
so there's no penalty for an errant blue. So I'll take a blue.
Okay. So for the liter, how much?
Wow. Since it is a liter, I'll go 60 on this.
60, and G, you were at
49.
49. Caleb.
Man, y'all are killing me. Man, it's a green. This is a really solid drinker. There is no reason to not dislike this, no reason to not have this on your bar. And then the added bonus of you get 25% larger. Hey, look, who wouldn't be happy with 25% more? Man, I'm going to go right in the middle with 55.
55. All right, Walker, I'm going to let you guess and rate very quickly.
Solid green and 65.
Okay. So here's the beautiful part of this. This is a green all day for me, but it might be the greenest of greens because this is that everyday drinker. This is that one that I want every single day. This is one to have on your bar at all times. You can sip it neat. I can make a cocktail out of it. It doesn't bother me to make a cocktail out of it because at $35.99 at Benny's for a liter. Wow. $35.99. Talk about a winner.
So that's almost free.
Yeah.
Like when you really think about
yeah.
the pricing of bourbon nowadays,
It's
like
sick.
That's
It's sick.
it's free.
We'll get to the 125, the problems of the world, when we come back on Implicit Bias Radio. Go to Benny's, tell him you heard about it here. Playing the victim card on this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. That would mean that I am the victim of a Sazerac 100 and a Sazerac 125. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. Welcome back to the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair, where, by the way, Mr. Lester's has one more weekend of a 5-pour 1792 flight.
Run.
Run, don't walk. $30 for 5 pours, 5 different 1792s. 1792 small batch, single barrel,
Sweet
wheat, cognac cask, and full proof. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. It is single barrel, sweet wheat, 12-year, cognac cask, and full proof. They're not even giving you the small batch.
You know, when I was in Vegas, I tried to order a bourbon.
$30 for one bourbon?
No.
Uh-oh.
No.
Worse?
Yeah. The average price around there is like $50 a pour.
For what?
Damn near anything. I got a Michter's 10.
Okay. I could see that being 50 a
Yeah.
pour. I could see that being 50 a pour.
And then everywhere else, I had a 1792. 1792, I think was $40.
Caleb, when you got those pours, what was it? Was it a steakhouse pour or was it like it was a regular bar pour?
I was at the place I drank the most bourbon. I was a pretty nice place, and I turned my charm on, and I got a pretty good pour.
Okay,
I'm not gonna lie.
The first time
I didn't
went
get a
to
Lester's
Vegas,
pour, but
we I went to Craft Steak and I had some really good scotch. And they handed it to me. I had to drink the first sip like this because
hell
it
yeah.
was like full to the
Okay,
top.
so
So I'm willing to pay
Agreed.
65.
Yeah.
And this was 10 years ago. So it was well worth it.
it's a
for
quarter
that.
of the
So I was
bottle.
curious.
Yeah, it was a quarter of the bottle.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. But
Just like you pour at your house, right?
the measured, maybe a little heavier. Anyway, the measured half-ounce pour for $60, that's a problem.
yeah, it's a pain. And that's the beauty of Lester's is $30 for 5.
Heavy hands, just saying.
Yeah, like, it's perfect.
Not like Carney's, not small hands, heavy hands. Anyway, to that, so all right, so that was Caleb Morse. That was Jared Brasso of Sirop de Saison, the Sirop de Claire, the de Saison for old fashions, the Amer de Saison, which is their bitters, which are fantastic. And you even have a mint
We
offering.
have mint. Yes. Mint,
Creme de
mint is
mint.
out.
Yes.
Yeah, well, more like, so it's a traditional simple syrup.
Okay.
Mint simple syrup. So it's crystal clear, spearmint, peppermint notes, and great in a mint julep mojitos. It's already launched, so it's out there. You should be able to find it in stores. I know both locations of Brasso's has it.
Yep.
Rouse's should have it. Nunu's has it. So it's out there. You can find it.
Ambassador Wine and Spirits has it.
Yeah.
I've seen it there. Yeah.
All the
right.
fun places.
Exactly.
And then next to Jared is Grant Galatas of William S. Called Jewelers. He is K&B, which is just a beautiful shade of Mardi Gras purple, bruh.
Always. Sorry, I didn't wear the socks.
That's okay.
Kavan got me a good pair of K&B socks.
That's okay.
Just
I love
flaming purple.
I
with
love
the
that
K&B
Chantel
logo.
didn't know that was the actual color of K&B.
Yeah.
What?
No, she didn't. Well, I mean, K&B, she's from here.
Yeah, but
Grant's
I'm from here.
Kenna. Grant's from Kenna. Yeah, you lived in Metairie for a while,
okay.
right? I mean,
All
just
right, yeah.
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
My dad-
So,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna use that at least 10 times.
all right. So look, we need to get to the problems of the world. We're going to talk about the Sazerac 125, which is also available at our Implicit Bias Liquor Collective partner at Benny's in Opelousas. But we have to get to this story because this story is probably going to take up the remainder of the hour. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to think back to the 90s and quote that great 90s philosopher when we say, oops, I did it again. And that would be ICE. ICE did it again. Technically not ICE. This time it was Border Patrol, but it happened again. Now, ICE is operating all over the country. So the odds of it, as much as I hate to say it, happening again are they're pretty good. The probability of something violent happening to someone when you're arresting, deporting, moving people that don't want to be moved, the probability is high. So what are the odds that it would happen again in the city of Minnesota? About 100%.
Especially with what they're doing right now. So
We're going to talk about that in a minute. So let's again start here. The facts of what we know. And I think this is a great place for us all to really kind of start because rarely does any of the commentators start where this really all begins. So this all begins with an American who has the right to carry a weapon and is a permitted concealed carry holder as far as we know. Correct?
Yes, this individual went through a class, learned about when, where, and how they can carry.
Stop right there. Some of the conditions of carrying. Now, I don't know all the conditions in Louisiana, much less knowing all the conditions. I know most in Louisiana because I am permitted, and I was taught by somebody who did a good job. But there's a lot that goes with this, right? Now, in Minnesota, like in Louisiana, are you supposed to have a permit with you when you are carrying said weapon, Caleb?
The research I've done, yes, you're supposed to carry your license. Now, the advantage we have in Louisiana is LA Wallet. It's automatically there, but you're supposed to carry your physical permit in the state of Minnesota.
So hold on. In Louisiana, I don't just have to have my license. I have to have my concealed carry permit with me,
Yes.
correct?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Your LA Wallet has it on there too.
You
now.
can have the permit,
Yep.
your concealed carry permit, but it's not your driver's license. Is
Correct.
the distinction I'm making.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, you are supposed to have your
Yes.
physical permit with you. Let me ask you something, Caleb. If I am carrying concealed without my physical permit in a state that requires you to have your physical permit, what am I doing?
That's the illegal carrying of firearms.
Oh, so I'm no longer legally
Correct. That
carrying a concealed firearm.
If they don't have permitless carry or anything else, because someone's going to say something about that. But if they don't have that, yes. And for the average person, we would say yes, that would be the illegal carrying of firearms.
Okay, so that's one. Any questions from the bar as we start to lay out how this all goes down?
None whatsoever. Clear violation of the law. Let's work from there.
Okay, so we start with breaking the law. Now, in Louisiana, and this is where I get fuzzy, Caleb, and I need your clarification here. In Louisiana, you call it the floppy menu rule. I am not supposed to carry a concealed weapon into a bar by state law, correct? There are some places I
correct.
can't go with a concealed carry weapon, aka a hospital. I can't go to a bar, so floppy menu. I think if I remember right, the rule is more than 51% of the establishment sales cannot come from alcohol. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I can't carry in a bar. I can't carry in a hospital. I can only carry in a church if the pastor gives me permission.
The governing bodies give you permission. And another one is you cannot carry in certain places. So like a protest or a parade, if you're a member of the permitting body. So if you're going there to participate in it. So like for a parade, now you can carry if you're not part of the parade crew, that kind of stuff. But if you're part of the crew and you're participating in the parade,
Okay.
you cannot carry.
So you made mention of if I am organizing a protest.
Correct.
So that puts you in violation of the law again if you are
In
part
Louisiana,
of-
yes. If you're there, if you're going for a protest,
Okay.
and you're participating in the protest, so you're along the protest route and you're participating in the protest itself, you cannot carry a concealed license, or sorry, you cannot carry a concealed firearm during that protest.
Okay. So if I was, say, part of the organized body, if I was communicating in back channels with everyone else and sending out messaging and telling people, hey, here's where this person is, here's where these people are, we're going to go find them, and we are going to physically try to create, follow me here, and I'm sorry, it's police words, civilian interdiction, right? Non-government licensed impedance of someone doing a formal legal job. Would that be legally carrying a concealed weapon still?
Not in the state of Louisiana.
So strike one, no permit if I'm not carrying with a permit.
Correct.
Strike two, where I'm carrying. Strike three, at what point is someone considered resisting a law enforcement officer or obstructing a law enforcement officer in the execution of their duties? I said duty.
And look, to be very truthful, the law kind of leaves that very broad because obstruction and resistance tend to be ancillary or secondary charges. So they leave a lot open to that.
Okay.
I mean, something as simple as being non-complicit can be obstruction or interfering. So that is very, very broad. But as like, and we're talking about Louisiana right now, because in Louisiana, as a concealed carry permit holder, you have a duty to inform first and foremost. So when law enforcement arrive on scene, my name is Caleb Morse. I have a valid concealed carry permit. I'm carrying a firearm. That is how you're supposed to address it. And we train people to say firearm because we don't say gun. Because when you say gun, most law enforcement, especially that here in Louisiana, that's their, I hate this term, but trigger word.
Ring the bell.
So whenever they hear gun, they think bad things, draw your firearm, draw your sidearm. That's what they're trained to do, right? And look, could that be a training flaw? Most definitely.
Oh,
Most
absolutely.
definitely. But that's why we train to tell people, look, my name is Caleb Morse. I have a concealed carry permit. I'm carrying a concealed firearm.
Concealed firearm, concealed weapon, either way would work,
Yeah,
correct?
something that avoids the word gun.
Walker just pulled out a weapon.
I
The
saw
1
it.
minute finger.
So stubby.
Not that weapon. He's not. We've taught him better than that. It's taken us a couple of years, but we've got him trained. All right, we'll come back. We'll continue this conversation. More of Implicit Bias Radio at 125 proof. Final segment of hour 1 of Implicit Bias Radio at 125 proof. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We got a great group for you here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL at the bar. Grant Galatas, K&B from William S. Nacall Jewelers. Sitting next to him is Jared Brasso of Zero de Saison, and of course, Brasso's Hardware, which we're going to talk about in hour 2, because we've got a pick from Brasso's Hardware instead of cocktails this week. We are going to have straight up picks from Brasso's Hardware in Maurice. And of course, he is the rustic renegade, Caleb Morse, drinking from our beautiful Mardi Gras glasses here in Southern Louisiana from the Bead King at Bead Busters, who sponsors the crew with a K, because we are Southern Louisiana here in Lafayette. All right. So very quickly, before we dive back into Minnesota and everything that's been going on there, this 125. Caleb, I'm going to start with you instead of finishing with you this time.
That was dirty.
You knew it.
I get more vanilla than
And you
caramel
liked
on
it.
this. Yeah. At 125, this hits. This is way different. I love the flavor profile more. I'm getting more flavor, more vanilla, clove, black pepper. This is my jam. Now, look, you squirreled earlier, Grant. You gave that one a blue, and I get it. Blue, brother.
Yep. Preach on, man. Preach.
All right, G, tell us what you think.
Yeah. So same thing. So I'm a proof hound myself, and 125. This doesn't drink like 125 at all. 110 maybe. It's super smooth, just like the 100 was, but there's so much more going on in this glass. It's really phenomenal.
While y'all are moving the mic, Walker, I'm curious as to what you think of this one, because this one, you're starting to get to that area where you like this kind of proof.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Got to a
it's
man's
really
level.
Not, it doesn't drink like it's 125. That's
No.
why I enjoy it.
No, it absolutely does not. This is incredibly smooth, incredibly flavorful. It is full bodied. It's oily enough. And man, it's available every single day. Grant?
I'll give this one a green. I'm kidding.
On principle.
Grant,
yeah.
Grant, you
Yeah.
ignorant
Just
slut.
I just had to.
That's just for you.
Yeah.
You can ring the bell because you brought that up. You were the originator of that on this show.
Oh my goodness. No, this is everything everyone is saying about it. It just surprises me though, because usually anything rye from the 5 years I've been doing this with you, usually that rye's got that sometimes overwhelming pepper
Yep.
on the throat, and this doesn't have it. I don't know if it's just Sazerac and if they're famous for that, but that's fantastic.
So imagine making a cocktail with this.
This
This
one,
is-
even at 125.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Real.
Oh,
And that's the beauty of it, is you can get this just about anywhere.
well, Benny's in Opelousas, our member of Implicit Bias Liquor Collective,
Our liquor
is where
collective
these
had-
bottles came from. And that's a great
Yeah.
place to go look and hunt. If you're in Opelousas, if you're north of the Karen Crow area, man, they're your peeps.
If you travel on the I-49 corridor to go hunting,
Yes.
stop by. He's not far off the interstate.
Nope.
So
So here to me is the dirty little secret of Sazerac 125. And this is why this is our bargain drinker of the year for 2026. And we can declare that in January of 2026.
good luck finding something that's going to be this kind of quality.
So this is the same liquid. As us bourbon nerds would say, it's the same juice from Thomas Handy Sazerac rye.
Mm-hmm.
The age statement was a little different. And what I will say is I blinded this against a 130 Thomas Handy that I had on my bar. And while you could tell the difference, it was simply in how smooth it was around the edges. The Thomas Handy was a little more smooth. This, just a little more aggressive, but the flavor profile, is exactly the same.
I love the aggressiveness of it. Like, and it's not overly aggressive.
No, it's not. It's really smooth for 125.
I like how it's just not 100% refined. It's still a little rough around the edges. You still get a little bit of that burn that I enjoy. And I like it's not choppy. It's still a very smooth and easy transition through all the flavors.
Straight blue for me, absolutely, especially at Benny's at $40.99 a bottle.
That's ridiculous. That's
So
even more free than the 1 liter was.
So when I said that these two were basically going to kind of reset the baseline for the rye bourbon market in the United States, these are game-changing whiskeys that you have to go get if you like to drink high-end stuff, because that's what this tastes like. This tastes like the high-end stuff that is unobtainium at an everyday price, an everyday offering. Just fantastic.
Now, I don't know if you can believe, Buffalo Trace's Sazerac's very
Correct.
particular about their mash bills
Yep.
and publishing stuff like that. So this one allegedly is 51% rye. So it's barely a straight rye. However, if that is accurate, that may be why we're getting a lot more of those bourbon notes
Could be.
on this. And it's way softer than your normal, because there's ryes out there that are 95.
Yeah,
five,
we've had
right?
100 proof.
Yeah.
We've
We've had
100%.
115.
Yeah, we've had 100%.
I mean,
rye.
100%, 115 proof, 100% rise.
Yeah.
We've had those. The flavor profiles on these, though, are just so good. They are so difficult to compete with. And again, you can sip it neat just like we are, which really is fantastic. Make a Sazerac out of this, and oh my goodness, because now that little bit of sweet has a little more balance from the proof of the spirit. You've got that pepper, and oh, just so good. Okay, so now back to the problems of the world, which of course 125 proof make them a little easier to deal with. We were talking about Minnesota. We established that if you are carrying a concealed weapon in Minnesota, you have to have your permit with you. Not your driver's license. You have to have your permit with you. If not, you are breaking the law. You have turned into Beavis and Butthead, breaking the law, right? Then there are certain places you can and cannot take said concealed weapon. If you are a member of the organizing body of an event, large public, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like a protest or a riot, for better use of the word, that's probably making it a second contributing factor to you illegally carrying. Then you've got the other part of this, which is the weapon that he was carrying, Caleb. The SIG 320, there's some documentation out there. And SIG, to be clear, has never been able to replicate this in their labs, according to Sig Sauer.
Yeah, the FBI has. The FBI did a study and they could. But what we have is a firearm that has a publicized issue where jostling it can cause a negligent discharge.
And that's a truly negligent. That's not a...
Yeah, that's not that's not booger hook, pulling the trigger back. That is a series of unfortunate events can cause the firearm to disengage the sear and it will go off on its own.
So you have a complete possibility where, because of their training, and we talked about training in the last segment, because of their training, officers could have been attempting to detain and subdue, which unfortunately the person shot here was not subdued. Please do not say, oh, he was in the fetal position. He was in the fetal position, kicking, punching, screaming, yelling, pulling arms, all this stuff after he'd been pepper sprayed. That is not the definition of subdued. A weapon is produced and gun is called by an officer on the scene. And as you said, Caleb, that word can be problematic.
Very much so, because when they train whenever they hear the word gun, that they respond with force almost immediately to lethal force, because that word means that there's a firearm involved in the situation, it's out of the holster, and something's happening. And here we have an officer, I'm going to use the term officer because even though Homeland Security, ICE, Border Patrol, and all that, they're federally commissioned, they're not exactly police officers. They have a different role, a different job than your police officer. And we shouldn't confuse those two, right? So they have different training, different levels of aspect, and different roles. They had disarmed him. The firearm was out. We know that one officer produced the firearm from his holster. I saw an image where a slide's locked to the rear. Kind of confuses me a little bit. Some people say, well, the negligent discharge had happened at that point in time. In order for that to happen, you'd have to have another malfunction to lock it to the rear. But there's a lot going on, and you have too many hands in the pot. Too many people want to be a chief and not enough Indians.
including the person who decided to leave the house that day with a
Yes.
firearm, without a permit, and all that good stuff. And therein lies the really big problem, which is it is incredibly sad that someone's dead. It is incredibly sad that someone took the life of that person. All of their family's lives are now messed up. And this is a situation that was completely avoidable if we all agree to just abide by the laws that we claim to abide by. We'll be back in hour 2 where we're going to have more fun, more whiskey, more problems of the world on Implicit Bias Radio. Hour 2 of Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. Hour 2 is always more fun. Why, Ooby Duke?
Liquor.
Because we've always had a second or third or fourth weekly whiskey. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. Caleb Morse, the Rustic Renegade, is in the chair like mine, your co-host. At the bar, Jared Brasso of Zero de Saison and Brasso's Hardware in Maurice, Louisiana, and Grant Galatas of William S. Nacall Jewelers, right here, also known as K&B. All right, so we were going down the rabbit hole of Minnesota in hour 1 and trying to solve a problem of the world. And it wasn't that it's not hard to solve. It's actually very easy to solve. The problem is there's just a lot to it. And we have to explain a lot as we get into that topic.
It is. Look, it's complex. And there, they don't have a duty to entreat, a duty to inform, or a duty to retreat. They do have a duty to retreat. There's a few things, and we do have a Second Amendment right that we can exercise in certain situations, not necessarily where he was and what he was doing. I believe you should be able to carry a gun when and wherever you go, but in order to do that, you have to abide by the social contract to a certain level.
Agreed. Well, the social contract being we all agree upon laws. And when we don't agree with the law, the way to change the law is to vote. And apparently it seems as there's only one side of the aisle agrees that elections have consequences. Because when one side doesn't agree, what do? They want to change the law violently in the streets as opposed to change the law in the houses where laws are made. G, you want to chime in?
Sure. How many times do we see that someone loses their life because they're in the wrong place at the wrong time? That happens almost every day.
Yep.
These particular instances, like we were talking about during the break, are people putting themselves in harm's way and causing issues that end up with them losing their lives.
Okay, so I love where you're going here because it goes back to the monologue, which is, I'm a chef. All the chefs out there, every chef I know will tell you the same story. They have chef's hands because they grab pots and pans that are hot coming out of the oven, and they don't always grab a rag to grab them with or grab, something to protect their hands. So what happens to their hands? They don't get completely burned, but they become accustomed to the heat. Do they blame the pan? Is it the pan's fault? Are they the victim of the pan? No, they know exactly what's going on. So let me summarize the situation in a little bit different way. And here's the way I'd like you to think about this. Caleb, you apparently lived on multiple farms as a kid. A lot of us were in places where we had the opportunity to see things in nature that weren't great. Beehives are a really interesting thing.
Very much so.
So as a child, my father worked in the mobile home business. And as a very young child, 3.5, 2.5, I apparently made my way underneath the mobile home. Now, I proceeded to, underneath the mobile home, take my hand and swipe at a wasp's nest.
Ooh.
Take a guess what happened to a very young Kavan.
Lesson learned.
Walker, you ready?
Button.
You got to let me get through some of it and figure out where the word's coming. It takes a little bit of intelligence, Walker. I got the stung out of me. I got stung over and over and over and over again. Was it the wasp's fault? The wasp is there doing just what the wasp does, right? But something came along and decided to go to the wasp's area, to their environment, to swat the wasp's nest and suffer the consequences.
The plural of wasp is difficult to say.
It is. But here's the big thing. The big thing is we have this exact same scenario going on today. Mm-hmm. We have people who are out doing what they do. And then we have 3-year-olds who, instead of going back and saying, hey, there's a wasp's nest here and it's going to hurt someone, we should do something appropriately about said wasp's nest, These people want to run up and swat it with their hands. And then when they get stung, they want to scream, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim of the wasp's nest. No, you're not the victim. You're a moron.
Well,
And you're not agreeing to the social contract that the rest of us agree to, which is elections have consequences, to quote a former president of the United States. It's time you start abide buying the elections have consequences rule that we all agree to. If you don't like it, there are plenty of people apparently applying for citizenship somewhere else. We will continue to change and evolve our laws here, but the fact that you're about to lose everything doesn't give you the right to become, for lack of a better term, a stalker.
Well, like here we have, I think it's LRS 1418 or 1420, an aggressor cannot claim self-defense. And even though we have an individual, when you watch the video and everything else, most of us would say that he's not being the aggressor. Legally, he is being the aggressor because at that time of, we'll call it a stop. It was not a stop, but we'll call it a stop. When he's being given direction, if you don't comply with that, be it lawful or unlawful at the time, that's not the place to prove your innocence. So being non-complicit puts him in the form of the aggressor. And it gave a multiplication symbol to an already really bad situation.
Grant?
2 points. Did any of these wasps run into you at the doctor's office?
They did not.
Okay. Next, when your elected officials are on TV and social media 24/7 saying that the people who are invading our communities,
The people who are actually trying to enforce the laws that are on the books are invaders.
or the Gestapo or any other, I think
The rhetoric is absurd.
it takes normal citizens and pretty much turns them into conscientious objectors.
No,
basically,
no,
to where they feel like I have to get out in my community and protect my citizens,
Okay.
even though the citizens they're protecting are the ones, or the non-citizens they're protecting are actually illegal criminals.
So hold on. So the reason I'm going to make a bit of an objection here is because the term conscientious objector
To war.
not just that, would mean that they step back from everything. That is how they protest. They literally remove themselves from the situation. What we have here, and this is a great one because it's the perfect segue, what we have here is organized. What we have here is financed. What we have here has support, has communications, has instruction manuals, has standard operating procedures, has codes of conduct, has different rank levels, so it has a hierarchy to it. Caleb, what would you call that if you were in the military?
I mean, that's an insurgency or a counterinsurgency they're trying to run. So this is a militia of sorts. And we've known this was happening back whenever BLM came through here. We knew that they were communicating. The sheriff department, everyone else, the fusion center came out. And they said we know they're communicating. We know that they're getting funding for certain things. We know that they're trying to set this up and run it a certain way. And what's crazy is they actually have people that have like half a brain about tactics and all that, giving them direction.
Okay, so
I agree with what you said, but the people who are part of the organization, you have citizens just sitting at home who listen to what their governor and what their mayor are saying, who would not interject themselves into this situation if not for the inflammatory
I
remarks that
agree
were
with you
being made.
100%.
So there's both elements.
Agree with you 100%, but those elements are one. Here's how you know.
And at either point in history, that's inciting a riot.
Oh, it absolutely is. So first of all, credit Cam Higbee, I believe is the reporter who infiltrated the Signal chat groups and figured out there are different chat groups for different zones in Minnesota. They are tracking people in Minnesota. They are able to follow people and run license plates real time. What does that tell you, Caleb?
They got a point of contact in the DMV.
Somebody on the
Or a
inside
PI.
helping them.
Or a PI.
And then, again, credit Data Republican on Twitter, what used to be Twitter. Data Republican cracked the code. And here are some of the people who are alleged, and I say alleged simply because we have to, because they are technically alleged to be involved in this. State Representative Brad Tabke is allegedly sending out orders and distribution levels for people. Johnny Sapotnik, he's Canadian, and I probably screwed up his last name. I don't care.
Yeah, you can screw it up.
That's exactly why. But he's Canadian. Why would that be a big deal, Caleb? Especially if he was sending money.
Well, that's foreign aid to individuals.
So that would be a foreign insurgency
Yeah.
into the United States,
Unless
right?
we absorb them and put them in the United States.
How about this one? I once said on this show years ago, there are journalists that need to be arrested. As a former journalist, I never thought I'd say that. You have Ben Hovland from NPR, who is allegedly in these chat groups.
You
Right.
know what I find
So you've
odd?
got journalists in this Signal group. Yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
So January 6th, after all that happened, they said Trump incited the event. They said that because he said we should go there and peacefully protest.
Well, remember, you had the media
Yeah.
as part of it because they edited
They
the
did.
speech to make it look like, and
But
they used that
They
in the
said
Senate.
that he incited that,
Correct.
right? And the left is the main one pushing that. Where are they at on this? Why aren't they saying that the governor and his cronies are inciting two murders?
Oh, that's another one.
This is their game that we talked about last month. They this is how they operate. The rules don't apply to them.
So you have, by the way, allegedly, the governor's campaign political strategist in this chat group. And this is the big one. And look, there are so many more names.
I'm sure
I
it continues to go
I'm
on.
looking at the list, but this is the big one. And this person has since deleted all of their social media. Please don't believe me on this. Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. And here's the really fun part.
Wasn't she running for? No.
She's lieutenant governor. Now, this is the really interesting part. And this is where I think this gets, this is where it gets juicy. Juicy. Like the old Victoria's Secret sweatpants. Juicy. This is where this gets juicy.
We all have that image in our
Yes,
head
we
now.
do.
Thank you.
Yes, we do. And you don't want that for Peggy Flanagan. I'm just saying. A former DOJ prosecutor explained felony murder reality is this. If you are involved in a conspiracy, in this case, interfering with federal immigrations and customs enforcement operations, and someone dies as a result, every participant in the conspiracy can be charged with murder.
That would be a lot of people in that Signal chat. You know.
So here's the question I ask. And Walker, I'm going to use the you for this just because you apparently get used enough. All right. Walker, if every day when you went to work and you got out of your car, there were people waiting for you with bullhorns and whistles and blowing them so loud in your ear that it hurts your ears. And then when you sat down to record, your sports show or do your job, they kept screaming in your face and cursing you out. Eventually, do you think you might react to that?
Yeah, that'd be pretty aggravating.
What would you call that? Somebody, and say they followed you past work, say they went to where you were trying to sleep and they were there doing that too. What would you call that?
Instigated.
Yeah.
I think there's a very different word
Harassment.
for it. There's another word for it. It starts with an S. It's stalking.
Yeah.
So if someone was following you and running your license plate,
Yeah.
figuring out if you had a rental car and figuring out where you were, following you to the place where you sleep, right?
Why do you think
You're right,
Walker
because
would be
the
familiar with
intent-
stalking?
The
Well,
intent doesn't matter.
Walker did his best to not let on that he's been doing that to somebody for years, and it's okay. Kennedy,
now she's
we're-
his girlfriend,
Kennedy, we're
so-
trying. Yeah.
Stalking seems to be a little more covert, whereas what they're doing is right out in front and just all over the place. But stalking tends
either
to
way,
sound
it's-
a little covert.
Either way, it's
Yeah, but
stalking.
either way, same thing.
Either way, it's stalking. The intent doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the actual action that you are engaged in. The following of someone, figuring out where they are, right? Because here's the deal, and this is the really interesting part. If all they were doing was actually protesting, we've had protests in New Orleans when ICE was there. We had protests in Lafayette when ICE had some people here. How many people did we have get shoved and pushed by ICE while they were in the process of detaining someone?
I don't think a single one.
I'll wait while you think about that. And think about how ICE is going to multiple locations in Minnesota. Do you think they're in the same place every day? No. They might be in the same hotel a few nights, but I mean, they're not going to the same neighborhood every day. So how is it every day there's an interaction between ICE and quote unquote protesters?
They tend to flock where they have sanctuary.
It's not
Well,
that.
if someone's giving them information.
well, Someone on
but
the
they're
inside.
protected-
Someone's
they're
feeding
protected by the
them.
people who should be enforcing what
Yeah.
they're doing is incorrect.
Someone's not keeping good OPSEC, operational security, and they're feeding them information.
This is
and
the
they're
big thing.
ahead of the game.
Complicit.
They are more than complicit. This is an organized effort to figure out, create intelligence where border enforcement or ICE is going to be and get there within seconds or minutes. They have, if you go read the signal gate stuff, please don't believe us on this. Please just go read all this. Please go look this up on X, search signal gate. You'll find more information than you can ingest in a day. But what you're finding is they are down to the type of whistle and the volume of the bullhorn, because the type of whistle and the volume of the bullhorn literally creates a trigger response in the human brain that will create a reaction, not a response.
I hate whistles.
They hurt your ears. And after a certain time, the brain fights back. They are designing what they are doing to create a violent interaction. So whoever is actually organizing this, and this is the key, and this is what you have to put together. Stick that finger, Walker. What you have to do is this. What you have to understand is there's someone coordinating signal gate. They are on signal, they're in groups, they're organizing, they're creating levels, they have hierarchies, they have comms, they have all this stuff. They are creating SOPs. Why are they creating all this? Because they want to create an interaction that happens not in just a protest. Because a protest is going to get its coverage and it goes away. They want an interaction where law enforcement is actually doing its job. Why? Because it has the opportunity to be violent. They are doing it this way on purpose, which means that the people who are organizing this want someone dead. They want their people dead. They want someone in their side to die so they can.
It shows them as a victim and feeds their rhetoric.
They can create the victim mentality.
Not the victim, the martyr.
The martyr, yeah.
Correct.
You know what's frustrating too is how come they're so damn good at technology? And here we have the Secretary of War who accidentally adds people to his signal. Why can't they accidentally add me to this?
So hold on. Here's the really fun part. The really fun part is notice and I'm going to use those dreaded air quotes, the journalist, and that's what I'm going to call him, a quote unquote, not real journalist, who was on Hegseth's signal. What did he do?
Well, he tattled right away.
Did it matter? No. Because everything was done, right? He went and wrote about it right away. Yet you've got allegedly multiple journalists, including one for NPR, who's in this signal gate, who is watching people get shot and killed. Is he writing about this? No, he's not telling you the behind the scenes. They are willing to sacrifice their own to be the victim. And that's our implicit bias. We'll be back. New weekly whiskey in hour 2. Why not? We might have 1 or 2 more. Cheers. Okay, you actually have to turn your mic on, Walker, so we can hear you say 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's all that matters.
You're killing me here,
That's
Walker.
all that matters.
Welcome back to Implicit Bias Radio. We are having more fun in front of microphones than we should be allowed to have, and let's hope that Walker does his job and does all the editing correctly so we don't completely mess this up. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. At the bar, Grant Galatas of William S. Nacall Jewelers. He is known as K&B, as in Kennebra. Sitting next to him is Jared Brasso of Zero de Saison and Brasso's Hardware in Abbeville and Maurice. We got one of his picks in our glasses for our, 3rd weekly whiskey this week. And of course, the Rustic Renegade Caleb Morse, your co-host, is back from Vegas. So, Jared, I'm going to let you start telling us about this pick.
Okay, so this is a Wilderness Trail wheated cast strength barrel pick that we did at Brasso's. It's 24% wheat. I don't want to do the math in my head right now, but I think it's somewhere in the 61%.
So is it a whiskey? Is it a bourbon?
It is a bourbon. It's
So it's gotta be
61% corn.
Got it, okay.
61% corn.
24% wheat. So that's
and then
85%.
Whatever's left is the barley. Or
Okay.
somewhere around there. Yeah. But I know that it's 24% wheat, which is which is considered a high wheat.
Yeah.
But not super high. Like Bardstown has their high wheat, which is like 40 or 39%. This is really, really nice. A traditional wheated, but cast strength. So if you've had like most of the Weller stuff, even the Weller 107.
I was about to say this is very Weller antique-ish.
Yes, because
very Weller
because the
antique-ish.
mash bill I think is similar and the proof is similar. And we've all talked on the show that proof done right is a major deal. This is one of those that's 116, I believe, is the proof.
116.2.
And around 5 years on this and a high wheat. So we've Wilderness Trail is kind of an interesting story. So these two guys, Dr. Pat Heist is the biochemist behind Wilderness Trail. And one of the things that they do is he's kind of figured out a way to replicate yeast strains so that he gets the exact same bourbon year after year after year. So the cool thing about Wilderness Trail is not only the price point great, Like this is for a single barrel cast strength is like right in the $59, $60 range.
Yeah, that's a fantastic
Their
price
regular
for a
stuff
pick.
is $49 every day. It's so consistent across the entire line. They have a rye, they have a high rye bourbon, they have the wheated, and then they have their regular cast strength that they sell, which is a high rye cast strength. So all of those different color labels, so you can kind of tell them apart. But from across the board at $49.99, like it's really, really good stuff, really good juice.
Yeah, this is Caleb and I were talking, and when I took the first sip, I went, "Ooh, I get some banana." Now, not like big banana,
Yeah.
not like Jack Daniel's banana runts. I get some banana, and then Caleb, you came up with,
Vanilla wafers.
and then we put together with Grant. So if you're from New Orleans and you're of a certain age, your mother probably made this banana pudding, and it wasn't made with whipped cream on top. It wasn't made with Jell-O pudding. It was made with real bananas, Nilla wafers. It was made with a meringue, which is a whipped egg white, on top instead of, and it was baked, and it was beautiful, and it was delicious. And my mom would make them in 9 by 12 pans or 12 by 13 pans, and I'd sit there and eat the whole thing as a high schooler. It's that deep, beautiful banana. I get that on the nose. I get the vanilla wafer in this that goes with that. And then I get a lot of Weller Antique on this bottle. It's fantastic at this price. Grant, I'm curious as to what you think of this at $116. I mean, we've apparently thrown a bunch of bad weekly whiskeys at you this week.
No, it's funny because I don't remember a meringue in that equation.
You don't remember the topping, and it'd have
No, because it was always just in a refrigerated just a big bowl with the bananas and the vanilla.
see, my
wafers
mom
and the
baked
and the
ours.
vanilla pudding. Really?
Yes, that's why I said it could
You
have been.
said meringue,
it was
yeah.
served warm, or it could be served cold.
Yeah.
So if I was lucky and she just finished it, I'd eat the whole thing warm.
Yeah. I just
If she finished it
texted
early in the day,
Chantel.
yeah.
the problem
I
with
texted
it being
Chantel, said, I
warm
want
is
that
like
again.
5 minutes later, you're like, ooh, gotta go.
Hey,
Went
we are
straight to the
actually
basement, huh?
we are actually going to discuss why bidets are shunned in the U.S. today, because I discovered that. And for those who know,
I'm not shunning my bidet.
if you have a bidet, if you know, you know. And I'm just saying, if you know, you love. G.
Right, just real quick, if we're going to talk banana pudding for a second, Google Magnolia Bakery
Okay.
banana pudding.
Okay.
Oh, the mag
and
in
make
St.
that.
Francisville, or
No. This is in New York City. But make it for Easter, and like your kids will love you forever. It's the one thing. Like none of my kids, Dad, could you please make the barbecued pork chops again? No, I get, Dad, could you please make the banana pudding that you've made for the last 5 years in a row? That's what we always want. That's what we come here for.
That's
rice
fantastic.
dressing and banana pudding.
That is
That's it.
fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Okay. So to go back to our stories and problems of the world, we've been on basically one story, but there's so many different aspects to it. I'm going to be completely transparent. Not like I'm a cynic or anything. Shocker. I don't think what's happening in Minnesota has jack squat to do about what ICE is actually doing.
oh no, hell no.
And I'm getting some looks here in the TSPL like, what do you mean? Here's what I mean. I mean, this is a wag the dog situation. Number one, if we're talking about ICE, what are we not talking about that happened in Minnesota or that's been happening in Minnesota?
Yeah, the perfect distraction from the fraud case. That's just absolutely rampant. in Minnesota.
750 grand in a suitcase trying to make its way out of the airport in Minneapolis. I mean, the fraud in Minneapolis, and there's a really good recording of this on X, and it's a discussion. How much money do you think is actually involved? I mean, are we talking $1 billion? Are we talking a couple billion? How long's it been going on?
Well, it's how much is your soul worth, and for these people, one or two people, I don't think it's worth a lot. But when you get the number of people that they have involved with this,
Oh,
that dollar amount
okay.
adds up fast.
Hold on. When you say the number of people, how do we have any idea what number of people might be involved in this?
Well, when you look at the multiple layers of government that are doing this, the multiple layers of people who are outside of the government who are involved in it with all the other things, and the people that covered it up, well, it can't just be 3 or 4.
Okay. Walker, I'm going to ask you to search this when I say this.
Penis.
Walker would definitely have to search for that.
Sorry.
Sorry, Walker. It was too easy. All right. How many NGOs are registered in the state of Minnesota? Walker, when you have that number, do me a favor and hold on to it. But I need you to tell me when you have the number. How many NGOs, and y'all know here in the TSPL what an NGO is. It's a non-governmental organization. The type of organization that received funding from what? From what now defunct government arm in the United States?
I have the number.
NSYD?
Aid.
USAID. USAID was giving money to NGOs, non-governmental organizations. If I told you that that number was in excess of 42,000,
Yeah,
would I be
42,000.
correct?
Son of a gun.
Ring the bell, baby.
In what state?
42,000 NGOs registered in Minnesota. The fraud number. Now, Walker, do this math for me.
Damn you, morals.
Do 42,000 times, say they each got,
250,000.
say they each got $1 million for a round number.
Yeah, that's a more realistic number.
Say they each got $1 million, right?
4.2 million.
Oh, no.
There's more commas in there.
$420 million, Walker?
No, 4.2 billion.
Yeah.
4.2 billion. Thank you. 4.2 billion. Now do this, Walker. How long have we really had a Somali immigrant influx into Minnesota? Anybody remember what year that was or when this really started? You might, because there was a famous movie about the incident that actually tripped this off.
That wasn't Black Hawk Down.
Where did that happen?
In Somalia.
Mogadishu. In where? Somalia. What did we do to make up for it? So Bill Clinton was in charge. What year did Black Hawk Down happen?
1992.
1992. So now, Walker, you've got 4.2 billion, right?
Yeah, I think it was 42.
42 billion.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
42 billion. Now Walker, do 42 billion times 30. We are not talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. We are not talking about billions of dollars. We are not talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. We are talking about trillions of dollars in fraud. Trillions of dollars in fraud over time.
Yep.
And that is why ICE has to be front and center in Minnesota instead of tracking down the fraud. And that's our implicit bias. We'll be right back. Penultimate segment of Implicit Bias Radio already, Walker?
Yep.
Man, it feels like we're rolling through this episode. It also feels like we're having way too much fun. Which is it? Or
Rolling.
Is it both? We're rolling. Outstanding. All right. In
Great
the Mr.
Fred
Lester's
Durst impersonation.
top secret podcast lyric. Wait, great what impersonation?
Fred
Fred
Durst.
Durst.
Come on, Walker, say it like Fred Durst.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, dear God.
Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit. Keep rolling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I know who
yeah.
that is.
Okay, so that is our PSA, our public service announcement for the day. If you're listening to Implicit Bias, please don't neglect your children. Make sure that they are not only actually literate, but they are also culturally literate. Every 20-something should at least know who Fred Durst is. And if not, introduce them to the lines about Fred Durst and Britney from Louisiana, right? Because apparently they were a thing at one time. Britney Spears.
The Pride of Kentwood, Louisiana.
Yeah, the Pride of Kentwood, Louisiana. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently she dated Fred Durst and there was a thing. Wasn't it Eminem who made the line famous about Britney and Fred Durst and figuring out who happened
Look, there
what
was a whole
to
Disney,
first?
there
was a whole
Disney
thing.
star thing.
Whole
It was
thing.
Christina Aguilera and Fred Durst and Eminem, little love triangle.
It was Christina Aguilera? Okay.
Both of them.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the whole little group was.
So wait,
tied
it
up
wasn't.
with
It was a square then, because it was Fred Durst, Eminem, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears. Is that what it was?
that whole little crew. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, let's jump back to the topic of this week,
Sorry,
which
I threw
is
a wrench in there.
Walker's intellectual deficiencies hurt us there. Anyway, Walker's not even paying attention. Okay. Troubling story as we switch gears, finally, because we've been on Minnesota, everything going on there, the fraud, the violence, the whole 9 yards, the insurgents, you name it. This one steps not far from Minnesota, because I did see someone who made a really, really good proposal today. And it was that we should trade Alberta for Minnesota. Or in other words, we should send Minnesota
they
to
do
Canada.
rhyme.
They get the socialists, they get the immigrants, they get everything Canada loves.
Everything they
we
want.
get reasonable people and oil, which is what we love.
I've been to Alberta. Banff is beautiful.
Good people,
Let's do it.
right?
Let's do it in a heartbeat.
So, okay. But here's the one problem I have with Canada. I say one problem. I have multiple problems with Canada, but here's
The accent?
here's the big problem. Take off, Hoser. The big problem I have.
You betcha, eh?
Did y'all read this story about Canada having and euthanizing? Like, euthanization is legal. Euthanization of human beings apparently up there is legal. And this is the problem with euthanizing someone. This elderly lady, please go find this story. Please don't believe me. Elderly lady diagnosed with a terminal illness decides that she's going to be euthanized. And then, shocker, changes her mind. Tells the Canadian government, hey, I don't want this anymore. I want hospice care. That's what I want. So what did the government do?
They killed her.
They euthanized her anyway, which is no longer euthanization. Now what is it?
Murder.
It's murder. It is flat out murder. And it is worse. It's government sanctioned murder for no reason other than being old. It's not like she was a criminal. It's not like she was in jail. It's not like she committed a heinous crime that carried the death penalty. By the way, that goes back to the social contract, which we all agreed to. And if we want to change it, you vote, and then elections have consequences. You don't get violent. Regardless, this is a supposed gentle and caring government that loves its people. That's better than the American government, if you ask them.
Is this the 80-year-old lady?
Yeah.
I'm reading it now.
Yeah, thanks. This
try.
is a government that cares. This is a loving government. Unless we deem it's cheaper to kill you. That's our implicit bias. Grant?
Yeah, it's
one
a
day.
shame because they said her husband had gotten to the point where he just couldn't take care of her.
He had caregiver
Anymore.
burnout.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That goes against all your wedding vows. I'm not sure what your wedding vows are in Canada.
Look, if
You know,
caregiver
but-
burnout was a thing, my wife would have euthanized me
Yeah.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, just that's a horrific.
Do they still
story.
get-
How do you even?
Would that nullify your life insurance policy?
I would think that the
I would-
decision for euthanization would, because it's
Yeah.
now no longer natural
Yeah,
death.
not natural
Yeah.
causes.
Yeah, but there's legal evidence of her right
Correct.
to choose to live.
Well, yeah.
So that's an interesting point.
And what I was reading in
Yes.
this too is she changed her mind, but it was approved within 1 day, and she changed her mind after the approval.
And then they denied it. Like, they filed an emergency writ to say, hey, we want to stop this.
We can't revisit this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
sorry.
no. Yeah.
We already ordered the medication. No take backsies.
No. It's more like, oh, no, you can't change that nugget to a sandwich. Even
Yeah.
though you decided you wanted the chicken sandwich instead of the nuggets. We can't change that because it's already out. No. Not
So-
even for an extra fee.
So
we
I
can't
don't
change it.
I don't know who in here went to private school. I went to school in Abbeville, and once a month we would go to the nursing home and visit and play cards with the old folks that were there.
Were you
And,
taking their money?
No, we weren't. There
Are you
was
kidding me?
no money available at
was,
the time.
G was the model for John Candy looking at the other guy in stripes and going, no. See, if we were north of the equator,
Correct.
your 4 kings would beat my
But
2
now-
7s.
but now-
because we're south of the equator, my 2 7s wins.
Exactly. No, but I will tell you that those were like, I appreciated the fact that those people didn't have anyone. Like, we were there to
For them.
facilitate
Yeah.
something for them. It's no different than if you have a golden retriever and you take them to a nursing home just to visit. Those people deserve to see that and to enjoy that. We neglect our elderly way too much. I can't tell you how many times I talk about my grandmother, and what kind of impact she made on my life because of what she was able to hand down to me. And we just, sometimes we neglect that in this country.
Well,
So I can't imagine like kind of sweeping this under the rug with someone who was willing to still be there.
And look, I have a 2-part response to that. One, what's disheartening is that whenever someone goes into like a nursing home or something assisted living like that, one of the biggest things they do, that is seen is that the visits stop and they become lonely. And before that, if you're fortunate enough to have your grandparents, your great grandparents in your life, glean that knowledge from them. And we should respect our elders. So when you look at something like this, whenever she's 80 years old and her nation, her country said, thank you for your taxes. It's cheaper for us just to pull the plug now. At what point are we like, no?
Yeah, I'm not sure when that transition took place because, especially amongst the Native Americans, the elders were revered. Whenever there was something happening within the community, you always went to your elders just because of their experience, just because of their life experience.
Well,
So I'm not sure when that transition took place, but
so it's always been a struggle, right? It's always been a struggle. The new generation wanting to take over for the older generation. That's always been a thing in Western culture. In Eastern culture, so go to Asia, same thing. Your elders are revered in those cultures. But there is a line, and I'm a firm believer that we get wisdom in some of the dumbest places, and I'm actually going to go to the remake of Casino Royale. There's a fantastic scene in that movie where James Bond is meeting the new Q, and they are sitting in front of an old warship, and they're talking about the warship, and the warship is a metaphor for an older person, you know, being set out and on its way to maybe being dry docked, and that is the ship and all this. And at one point, the new Q says, you know, experience is no guarantee of efficiency. And Bond responds with, and youth is not a guarantee of innovation. And that's the problem. The problem is that the youth, or those who want to turn over generations, they do not care about the expertise, the experience, and the efficiency of those who've been there and done it. They want the youth to be their own gods, think that they are innovating everything, and that their ideas are new. Much like Walker giving me the 1-minute finger, sending us to the final segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. Final segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio, and we have so much stuff to discuss this week. We actually had a brief debate, then I dictated what we were going to do. Sorry, everybody. All right, just a reminder, we are in the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair this week. We've got a great crew. Caleb Morse, the Rustic Renegade, is here. He is savoring this Brasso's Hardware pick from Wilderness Trail. It is a weeded bourbon at 116 proof. It's fantastic. At the bar, we have a Brasso who happens to be the Brasso. He is Jared Brasso of Brasso's Hardware and Zero de Saison, the official cocktail mixer of Implicit Bias Radio. And we also have Grant Galatas, the K&B from Kennebra. Walker Griffon is, I guess, doing some work over there.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. All right. So we thought this was a fantastic story because, you know, we often wonder why we are where we are in society. And it's one of those things, one of the problems of the world that we try to discuss and solve on this show. And there's an interesting study that we came across. Please look this up. But this one maybe gave us some insight. So here's how the study worked. There were contestants in a game. Those contestants were all hooked to electroshock therapy machines, basically. Not high voltage, but enough to make them feel minor pain. And they signed up for this.
It's like 1 amp.
Yeah. Then there were observers, and the observers were men and women. And one of the goals of this was to see what is the difference between how men's and women's brains work. So here's what would happen. While they were playing the game, contestants were basically randomly shocked with this electroshock therapy equipment. Now, here's what separates the players of the game. Some of the players were playing by the rules. Others were cheating. And brainwaves for the observers were tracked when these people were shocked. Now, as you would expect, when the people who were playing by the rules were shocked, both the men and the women showed flares in the centers of the brain that equate to empathy. But when the cheaters were shocked, this is where the difference came in. Men, zero flare in the center of the brain that shows empathy. In other words, men, when they saw the cheaters get shocked, didn't care. Or thought, yep, they had it coming. When cheaters got shocked, women still showed empathy. Now, it's a really interesting paradox as to why we are where we are, because we see on social media so many times, oh, it's the women doing this. I mean, you look at a lot of these protests and it's not a 51-49 split. It's usually a 75-25 split, right? And let's be honest, if you know Implicit Bias Radio and you look at the 25%, it's probably 75, 15, 10. And 15 of the 25 should side with the 75. Just say it. But herein lies the point. The feminine brain is trained to give care and to empathize with everybody.
Well, and it serves a very different purpose, right? It's meant to balance out in the proper biblical household. It's meant to balance out certain things that men prioritize because we need that. You know, and a good spouse, a good mother, a good wife is meant to be nurturing and nourishing.
Mm-hmm.
They're to help raise the kids and fulfill a level of spiritual holiness in the home. And that's a very, very high place of regard.
And not even in the home, but in the village, in the tribe. So your mothers, because you had mothers that died during childbirth.
Yeah.
Those kids lived and someone had to take care of them. So that village, it goes back to, it takes a village to raise, right? So that whole concept is you needed the females in there to raise the entire village.
And this is a fantastic point that you bring up when you say the village, because even if you go back to the aristocracy in the 1800s, in the Middle Ages, you had this thing called nursemaids.
Mhm.
They were not even the mother of the child, but they would nurse the child for the mother, for the actual blood mother of the child, right? So you had multiple women raising the child, not just in a psychological sense, but in a physical sense, meeting those needs and that sustainment. But it also helps us understand why maybe we are seeing an over-feminization leading to certain scenarios where we're seeing people who, for lack of a better term, insist on breaking the law, insist on creating bad situations, and still being allowed to play the victim.
Well, and you know, when you look at it, you need the female sex is beyond necessary.
Absolutely,
Like,
it's beyond necessary.
It is intrinsic to all further of life. And when men view things, we're like, well, this is what's necessary. This is what isn't. This is the consequence. This is here. We tend to think more analytical, and it's ones and zeros, very binary. So if I stick my finger in the electrical socket, you'll all look at me, you'll giggle, you'll laugh, and you're like,
yeah, we would.
right?
You got what you deserved.
Yeah, where the average, and I say the average because the average of the female that I know is gonna be like, oh yeah, he's dumb, but let's help him. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And we're like, well, now he learned a lesson.
Well, and I think if you grab 4 females and put them in the room in the last hour and a half, there'd be a little bit different perspective, even along party lines with how they feel about Republican, Democrat, or whatever. There would be different tendencies on
agreed.
how they would judge things on what we talked about tonight.
Well, and very much so, because we all serve different roles, and regardless of even if male and female, if you both agree on many, many fundamental things, you're going to view it from a different perspective, which is necessary to have a good, well-rounded household unit.
I grew up where the phrase "wait till your father gets home"
Yeah,
was a very frightening thing to hear from your mother.
it was the worst thing to hear.
I can understand the empathy from the mother, but there has to be an accountability and a certain amount of rearing to where when you have crossed a line, you have to be accountable for your actions. And when your mother could not find it within her gentle heart to be the disciplinarian, the phrase "wait till your father gets home" was something that you just did not want to hear.
And you didn't
And it was
want to hear it?
relegated. It was relegated to delegated to the father, because it's in his nature to not have empathy for the person who was cheating.
And what's even worse is the reason you didn't want to hear that, the reason you'd rather tick off your dad than tick off your mom, is because if you ticked off your mom, your dad had to hear it, and that made it even worse. Right?
Exactly correct.
Because dad didn't want to deal with it coming from mom.
Wait till your father gets home.
I mean, how many times, and Caleb, I think you brought up a great point here. How many times, even me as a father, sitting there with your spouse, do you look at him and your wife is like, oh, we got to stop him. And we look at him and go, no. They'll learn a lesson. It'll be fine.
Hey, let it happen.
Right? They'll be all right. They might come away with a scar. They might have something on their cheek, their forehead, their arm, their leg. They're going to be okay, but they won't do it again.
Just give him some Robitussin.
That's it. Have them walk it off, right? I mean, that was the
Little
old saying.
Windex does one.
But that is what, and I hate to say, needs to happen again. And that is why we are, I believe, with a generation that never got that. And we are seeing the repercussions of that today on this Implicit Bias. Find us for the bonus content. Go to buzzsprout.com, find Implicit Bias Radio, because in bonus content, we're going to talk everything from an attempted assassination of the president of China to fake chicken to all kinds of other stuff. Trust me, you don't want to miss bonus content from Implicit Bias Radio. Cheers, and we'll see you in 7.